"Come on in, boys. Will you smoke a joint with me?" the old man said as Joseph and I climbed the steps of the rusty old school bus, searching for a place to sit. The bus, parked in a vacant lot on Potrero Hill, was painted in bold letters that read, "I have been conducting experiments on myself for 30 years, exploring the mysteries of chemistry and health. My prescription? Eat a clove of garlic and drink your own urine and semen twice a day." Joseph and I glanced at each other and wondered, what are we getting ourselves into? Shaking my hand, the small old man, wearing a black evening gown, took a bow, saying, "You may call me Emperor Arcadia." Seated again, his arthritic hand struggled to roll a joint while he spoke. "I've been taking speed for 30 years, medicating myself, and the combination of methamphetamine and certain topical treatments is curing me of all human diseases." As he continued, we stole glances around the crowded old bus, containing soiled clothes, salvaged computer monitors, and buckets of urine. A mix of curious smells strained my nose for recognition. "The government has lied to us. It's a conspiracy to exterminate the planet. If I were in charge, I would burn all the money and declare the entire planet monetary and class free. We would all be equal and wealthy." I attempted to break into his monologue with a question. "Emperor, how long have you lived in San Francisco?" "Too long. Do you have an estate in the country you'd like me to be the caretaker of?" I tried again. "How old are you?" "I'm not old. I'm as young as they come." Persisting, I asked, "Emperor, where did you grow up?" "Grow up? I haven't grown up." And then he returned to his speech. "Boys, I advise you to drink your own urine twice a day. Those golden showers will cure all that ails you." When the emperor could sense that we were now only listening to be polite, he became defensive. "I can see that you don't believe me, but you had better. I'm a messenger from God." Joseph spoke first. "Well, what a coincidence. We are also followers of God's messenger, Jesus." Now that was exactly the wrong thing to say, for the emperor grew agitated and exclaimed, "I'm the effing Jesus Christ, the GD Messiah. Jesus isn't coming back, so you'd better listen to me. And if you don't believe me, get out of my bus." We groped for a diplomatic way to end our visit. "It was, good to meet you, Emperor," I said weakly as we exited, befuddled by this strange encounter. I turned to Joseph. "Well, I guess that attempt to care failed," I said. "We can't make someone be our friend if they don't want to," Joseph replied. A few months later, I ran into the emperor at the plaza downtown, slumped over, sunburned, haggard, and sitting in a wheelchair. I hardly recognized him. Yet, he was dressed impeccably, decked out in a costume crown and bright gold jewelry, and wielding a royal amulet in his jittering hand. When I greeted him, he smiled warmly and said, "I'm doing better than ever, can't you see? Say, I was just going to get something to eat. Would you like to join me?" Recalling our first encounter, I was taken aback by this new friendliness. He insisted on buying me a strawberry shake, and as he went up to pay, several tablets of methamphetamines fell from his wallet out onto the counter. Sitting in a booth across from me, he repeated verbatim the monologue from our first visit. I looked at him intently, his hands brown with filth, dirt caught in the creases of his worn skin, and that mouth, grotesque, toothless, rotting, and wildly chomping chicken sandwich. My stomach turned. Sputtering incoherently now, he was desperately trying to get through to me as his spit and chicken sandwich landed on my cheek. I stared into his hazel green eyes, wondering what he was thinking and feeling inside. "Emperor, what has it been like living in that bus by yourself all these years?" He paused dramatically. "It feels lonely sometimes." I pressed for more. "Well, what do you do when you're feeling lonely?" Subdued for a moment, he answered, I lock myself up in my bus for 3 or 4 days at a time, or I come down to this corner. And then he quickly changed the subject. Boy, I need to get a shower. And ooh, look at him. I'd sure like to get him on a chain to dominate. Ha ha. I racked my conflicted brain and heart to understand. Am I wasting my time, or is this man teaching me something about the love and compassion of Jesus? And I thought, is an act of love only significant because of the change it produces in another person, or can the meaning be in the act itself? I realized that as a follower of the way, I was being invited to love the emperor despite his prickly hostility and sometimes highly unusual personal habits. A few days later, Joseph and I stopped by the emperor's bus. More sedated, he expressed how glad he was to see us and explained that he just completed one of his cycles of treatment, which involved covering his entire body in menthol vapor rub, followed by petroleum jelly, then taking a hit of methamphetamines. You see, we all have these bugs living inside of our bodies that are killing us, but slowly I'm sweating them out. And then he explained how he washes in a solution of vinegar, bleach, dish soap, and urine. The whole process takes 3 days, but look, see how young and fresh my skin looks? Pretty good for being 63 years old, I'd say. Emperor, is there anything we can do for you? I asked. Well, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten for days. My legs aren't working too good, so I can't get to the store. Handing us some money, he asked us to buy him an Italian sausage sandwich. And make sure you get it with mayonnaise and provolone cheese. Oh, and buy yourself some sandwiches with my money too. They're very delicious. Along with friends from our community, we began visiting the emperor several times a week, bringing groceries, helping cut his hair or clip his toenails, and cleaning up around his camp. Gradually, he began to trust us and revealed more about himself. His real name was Robert. Estranged from his family, after years in mental institutions, he'd moved west from Wisconsin. During the 1970s, he was something of a celebrity in San Francisco's club scene. The emperor was locally famous for crashing society balls, civic celebrations, and parades, announcing himself swathed in a velvet cape and crown, accompanied by matching miniature poodles on tiny leashes. But as he got older, and perhaps more peculiar, he lost his social currency and became more and more isolated. The emperor's health continued to deteriorate, and by December, he was confined to his wheelchair. We pleaded with him to move into an assisted living facility. Instead, the emperor predicted that the apocalypse would come by the first of the year. And then I'm going to kill myself with a fatal dose of phenobarbital mixed with vodka. Emperor, I would be so sad if you choose to kill yourself, I said. Why should you care if I live or die? He asked indignantly. Emperor, you are valuable to God and to all the people who love you. We would miss you. Nobody's ever loved me, he replied bitterly. I'm really sorry you feel that way. After all the time we've spent together, I hope that you might consider Joseph and me to be your friends. At Christmas, we decided to throw a party for the emperor, including his favorite foods and a birthday cake. I told him that I was going to be bringing my family along, so he would need to be on his best behavior. You see, we could never predict what the emperor would say or do. There was a full moon on that December evening when I knocked at the door to the emperor's bus. He came out wearing an elegant purple bonnet with freshly painted fingernails. A thin young woman who we knew worked as a prostitute lived in a trailer on the street nearby. She joined us along with one of her clients. We ate by candlelight, serenaded by music from a transistor radio. And as we ate and laughed and talked, the emperor declared that the food was delicious. After dinner, my wife Lisa put candles on the cake. And I said, hey, let's sing happy birthday to someone. Maybe somebody here who hasn't celebrated their birthday for a while. Who could we sing happy birthday to? Just then, beaming, our 3-year-old son Noah blurted, Papa, it's Christmas time. Let's sing happy birthday to Jesus. I panicked. That was the worst thing I could imagine mentioning in front of the emperor, and I waited to see what he would do. Slowly, with a big toothless grin, he said, Yes, let's sing happy birthday to Jesus. So under a clear and starry night, the 8 of us sang together. Lisa and me, a streetwalker and her John, a 63-year-old transvestite, and 3 small blonde children with red rosy cheeks. As I helped the emperor back into his bus, he turned to me and said, This was the best night of my whole life. Thank you. Early on Sunday morning, Joseph and I knocked at the door to the emperor's bus. There was no response, but we heard a faint groaning from inside. Eventually, we broke down the door and found the emperor collapsed on the floor, lying in a pool of his own waste. He tried to talk, and through slurred speech, I deciphered that he wanted water. We sat him up and gave him something to drink. And as we began to change his clothes and wash his body, what had happened slowly dawned on us. He had taken the phenobarbital as planned. Searching quickly, I found scattered tablets on the floor near a bottle of vodka. The rest of our group had just arrived when we called for the ambulance. As the paramedics lifted him onto the gurney, he pleaded with me to stay by his side. I rode along to the hospital in the back of the ambulance, holding his hand. At the emergency room, after he was stabilized, a nurse invited me in where I stood alone by his side. Emperor, I said, it's Mark. With eyes still shut, he murmured, I wanted to die. Why did you save my life? I hesitated for a moment, searching for words. Emperor, you are my friend, and I care about you. Agitated with speech still slurred, he asked, But why? Why did you save my life? And then louder and more desperately he repeated, Why do you care about me? Slowly I lifted my hand and began to caress his bald head. Emperor, we are all loved, I said. And then I heard him snoring and watched his chest rise and fall with each belabored breath. I stood there for a long time, praying and thinking about this man who felt so lonely that it was nearly impossible for him to imagine that anyone would care. When Joseph and I arrived at the hospital the next day, the emperor was wide awake and smiling. With hugs, he greeted us like long-lost sons and quickly handed Joseph some money to go and buy each of us a prime rib dinner from his favorite dive cafe. The hospital psychologist discreetly invited me into her office. As I shared what I knew, I had the strange realization that although I'd only known the emperor for 6 months, I was probably closer to him now than anyone else alive. Joseph soon returned with those 3 prime rib dinners, and we sat down at the table together, and we talked, and we laughed, and the emperor declared that this food was delicious. So I realized that there may be some absurdity to my story, but what I do know is that I feel alive when I'm testing the limits of my own boundaries, finding a source of love that is greater than my own, and discovering beauty in unexpected places.